The power of 90 days lies in its ability to transform your life through focused, intentional effort. While many people dream of massive change, few recognize that the key is not found in dramatic leaps, but in consistent daily actions sustained over a meaningful period of time. 90 days is long enough to rewire habits, reshape identity, and redefine what you believe is possible, yet short enough to feel achievable and within your control. When you commit fully to a 90-day journey, you create a container in which discipline becomes the engine of your progress. It is a period where you decide that excuses no longer have a seat at the table, and where your actions, not your intentions, write the story of who you are becoming. Change doesn't happen overnight, but it also doesn't require years of waiting. It requires a decision and the courage to follow through long after the excitement fades. The reason 90 days is so powerful is because it gives your mind and body enough time to break the old patterns that have held you back and replace them with new standards. The first week feels exciting, the next few weeks feel challenging, and somewhere along the way, the transformation becomes internal. What once felt unfamiliar becomes your new normal. You start to think differently. You start to act with more confidence. You begin to trust yourself again because every day you're proving through action that you are capable of keeping promises to yourself. During these 90 days, you will experience moments of doubt, resistance, and temptation to quit. This is part of the process, not a sign of failure. In fact, these moments are the very opportunities that shape your future. Every time you choose to stay committed when it would be easier to give up, you build mental strength. Every time you show up even when you're tired, overwhelmed, or unmotivated, you reinforce the belief that you are in control of your life. Transformation is not about perfection. It is about persistence. Those who commit to a focused 90-day pursuit discover that change is not a mystery. It is a formula: clear intentions, consistent habits, and relentless follow-through. What makes the 90-day commitment so life-changing is that it forces clarity. You have to decide what matters, what you want to achieve, and who you want to become. Then, day by day, you carve the path toward that vision with discipline as your guide. You realize that motivation is only the spark. Discipline is the fuel that carries you through the days when motivation is nowhere to be found. And as you reach the end of those 90 days, you don't just arrive at a result. You arrive at a new identity. You become someone who follows through, someone who sets a goal and sees it through, someone who understands that the future is built in the quiet, consistent actions of the present. The power of 90 days is the power to change the trajectory of your life forever by proving to yourself that you can. Discipline over motivation is the foundation on which every lasting achievement is built. Motivation is powerful, but it is also unpredictable. It rises and falls with your emotions, your environment, and your circumstances. One day you feel unstoppable, ready to conquer everything in your path, and the next day you feel drained, distracted, or overwhelmed. Relying on motivation is like relying on the weather, useful when it's favorable, but completely unreliable when conditions shift. Discipline, on the other hand, is steady. It is the inner agreement you make with yourself that you will act regardless of how you feel. When you prioritize discipline, you take control of your life instead of waiting for inspiration to strike. Discipline is what turns goals into habits and habits into a lifestyle. It is the quiet decision to show up each day, even when the excitement has faded. It is waking up early when you'd rather stay in bed, choosing the difficult task over the easy distraction, and saying no to the impulse that would compromise your progress. Many people chase motivation like a spark that will ignite their dreams. But the truth is that the spark is only the beginning. Discipline is the steady flame that keeps burning long after motivation flickers out. It's what carries you through the moments when your mind is full of doubts, or when the results are not yet visible. The people who succeed at the highest levels are not the most motivated. They are the most disciplined. They understand that feelings are temporary, but commitments are powerful. Choosing discipline over motivation also reshapes your identity. Every disciplined action you take becomes proof of the person you are becoming. Each day you follow through on your commitments. You build trust with yourself. You begin to see yourself as someone dependable, someone strong, someone capable of doing things even when they are hard. That shift in identity is one of the most transformative parts of the journey. Once you see yourself as a disciplined person, your behavior naturally aligns with that identity. You no longer negotiate with your excuses or bargain with your goals. Discipline becomes your default mode of operation, not because it's easy, but because it reflects who you are. Ultimately, your daily actions define your future because they define you. They shape your habits, your mindset, and your identity. They determine whether you stay where you are or rise to where you want to be. When you commit to consistent daily action, you take control of your destiny and build a future you can be proud of, one deliberate step at a time. Overcoming excuses is one of the most important steps in any meaningful transformation, because excuses are the subtle, persuasive voices that hold you back long before any external obstacle ever does. They come disguised as logic, comfort, or self-protection, but their true purpose is to prevent growth. Every time you are on the brink of doing something difficult, every time you attempt to stretch beyond your comfort zone, excuses appear with perfect timing. They whisper that you're too tired, too busy, not ready, or not good enough. They convince you to wait for the right time, even though the right time never comes. What separates those who succeed from those who stay stuck is not talent or luck. It is the ability to push through these internal negotiations and act despite them. Excuses feel real because they are rooted in emotion, not truth. Your mind is wired to protect you from discomfort, uncertainty, and potential failure. When you set a challenging goal, your mind immediately tries to pull you back to what feels safe. This is why excuses show up strongest when the task ahead requires discipline or sacrifice. The moment you decide to wake up early, the mind reminds you how warm the bed is. The moment you commit to a workout, it tells you how tired you are. The moment you try to start a new habit, it insists that tomorrow would be better. These patterns are universal. Everyone experiences them, even the most successful people. The difference is that successful people don't let excuses dictate their behavior. They hear the excuses, recognize them for what they are, and act anyway. To overcome excuses, you have to recognize that growth requires discomfort. There is no transformation without friction. You will have days when you don't feel like showing up, when motivation is low, and when your mind is filled with resistance. These moments are the true turning points. When you act in alignment with your goals on the days when it feels hardest, you strengthen your mental resilience. Every time you push through an excuse, you weaken its influence. Every time you listen to it, you reinforce the cycle of hesitation and self-doubt. The fight against excuses is not a one-time battle, it is a daily practice. But each victory, no matter how small, builds momentum. One of the most powerful realizations you can have is that excuses don't reflect your actual capabilities. They reflect your comfort zone. They are a negotiation between who you are now and who you are trying to become. The version of you that stays comfortable wants to keep things easy. The version of you that seeks growth wants to break patterns and rewrite your story. When you consistently choose action over excuses, you begin to shift your identity. You start to see yourself as someone who follows through, someone who chooses effort over comfort, someone who takes responsibility instead of waiting for perfect conditions. This shift in identity becomes fuel for future discipline. Over time, discipline creates freedom. While it might seem restrictive at first, discipline eliminates the chaos and indecision that drain your energy. It creates structure, clarity, and stability. It gives you control over your time, your habits, and your future. When you act with discipline, you don't waste hours debating whether you should begin. You simply begin. You don't allow procrastination to steal opportunities. You take ownership of your life in a way that motivation alone can never achieve. And as the days accumulate, the effect becomes undeniable. Small, disciplined actions compound into massive change. What once felt difficult becomes natural, and what once seemed impossible becomes achievable. Discipline may not feel glamorous, but it is the force that transforms your dreams into reality. Your daily actions define your future because every small choice you make becomes a brick in the foundation of the life you are building. People often imagine that their future will be shaped by one big decision or one breakthrough moment, but true transformation is rarely the result of a single event. It is the result of consistent behavior repeated over time. The small things you do each day, how you spend your morning, the thoughts you entertain, the habits you cultivate, the effort you apply collectively determine the direction of your life. Even when the changes seem too small to matter, they are silently shaping your mindset, your discipline, and your identity. The future is simply the accumulated result of today multiplied by 90 days, multiplied by a year, multiplied by a lifetime. When you choose to act consistently, even in small ways, you take control of your trajectory. The truth is that life doesn't change in the future, it changes in the present. Every day gives you a new opportunity to move one step closer to the person you want to become. If today you choose growth, tomorrow you will be stronger. If today you choose discipline, tomorrow you will have momentum. If today you choose excuses, tomorrow you will have more reasons to stay stuck. Your future self is being shaped by the tiny decisions you are making in moments when it feels like no one is watching. Because the reality is that the most important work happens in private long before the results are visible in public. Daily actions matter because they create habits, and habits build your character. When you repeatedly take the same action, your brain begins to recognize it as part of your identity. If you show up every day to work on your goals, even for a short time, you reinforce the belief that you are someone who follows through. If you push yourself to do the uncomfortable tasks, you train your mind to value discipline over convenience. On the other hand, if you procrastinate, avoid challenges, or let distractions dictate your day, those habits also shape who you become. Your character, confidence, and capabilities are built not in grand gestures, but in the quiet moments of choice that happen throughout each day. Another reason your daily actions are so powerful is because of the principle of compounding. Just as money grows when invested consistently, your efforts grow when applied daily. One workout doesn't transform your body, but 90 days of consistent effort will. 1 hour of learning doesn't make you an expert, but 90 days of reading, studying, and practicing can shift your entire skill level. The compounding effect takes time, which is why many people quit before they see results. but once it begins to work in your favor, the change becomes undeniable. Momentum builds slowly, but once it starts, it becomes a powerful force pushing you forward. Overcoming excuses also requires honesty. You have to acknowledge the costs of giving in to them. Every excuse delays progress. Every excuse strengthens old habits. Every excuse keeps you living a life smaller than your potential. When you realize that excuses don't protect you, they limit you, you begin to treat them differently. Instead of accepting them as truth, you question them. Instead of letting them decide your actions, you override them with intention. Over time, this practice becomes second nature. The path to lasting change is not easy, but it is simple. Act even when you don't feel like it. Show up when it's inconvenient. Push forward when comfort tempts you to stop. Excuses lose their power the moment you refuse to listen. Transformation happens the moment you choose discipline over comfort, effort over ease, and purpose over distraction. In those defining moments, you become stronger than your excuses, and your future begins to take shape. Becoming the person you're meant to be is a process that unfolds through countless decisions, moments of courage, and sustained commitment to growth. The transformation that happens after 90 days is not just about achieving a goal or changing a habit. It's about reshaping your identity from the inside out. When you dedicate yourself to a focused period of consistent work, discipline, and self-improvement, you begin to reveal a version of yourself that has always existed beneath the surface, but required effort and intention to bring to life. The journey is not simply about doing more, it is about becoming more. With each day of consistency, you break away from old limitations and step closer to the person you were always capable of being. During this 90-day transformation, something remarkable happens. You start to recognize the difference between who you were and who you are becoming. In the beginning, the changes might seem small or even invisible: waking up earlier, making better choices, avoiding distractions, showing up even when you don't feel like it. But over time, these small actions accumulate. The way you think begins to shift. You develop a new level of self-awareness and self-respect because you're no longer living at the mercy of excuses or old habits. You're living in alignment with your intentions. You begin to trust your own word again because you are consistently proving that you can honor your commitments. This trust is powerful. It builds confidence, and that confidence becomes the fuel that pushes you further. Becoming the person you're meant to be also requires letting go of versions of yourself that can no longer serve your future. This might mean releasing old stories about your limitations, breaking patterns that kept you stuck, or walking away from environments that hinder your growth. For many, the most difficult part of transformation is not adopting new habits, but releasing the old identity that felt familiar, even if it wasn't fulfilling. Growth demands that you confront your comfort zone and step beyond it. The person you're meant to be doesn't emerge through ease. They emerge through challenge, discipline, and a willingness to evolve. As you continue building momentum, you start to notice tangible changes, not just in your actions, but in the opportunities that begin to appear. People respond to you differently, your energy shifts, your mindset becomes stronger, clearer, more focused. You become someone who shows up with intention, someone who values their time, someone who is committed to personal excellence. You begin to demand more from yourself because you finally recognize your potential. What once felt impossible now feels achievable because you've developed the discipline, resilience, and self-belief needed to make it happen. Another profound outcome of becoming your evolved self is the realization that transformation is a lifelong journey, not a one-time event. The 90 days serve as a powerful foundation, but the identity you develop in that time becomes the launching point for even greater growth. You start to set bigger goals, embrace new challenges, and see opportunities where you once saw obstacles. The process trains your mind to view effort as a pathway to possibility rather than something to avoid. You begin to understand that every challenge you overcome strengthens the person you are becoming. Each step forward solidifies the future you once only imagined. Ultimately, becoming the person you're meant to be is about aligning your actions, your habits, and your mindset with the highest version of yourself. It's about recognizing that greatness is not something you stumble into. It's something you build deliberately through consistent effort. After 90 days of disciplined commitment, the transformation is undeniable. You don't just feel different, you are different. You've proven to yourself that you can choose growth, follow through, and create real change. This new identity becomes your greatest strength, empowering you to continue evolving long after the 90 days have ended. You step into your future with clarity, purpose, and confidence, knowing that the person you're becoming is not just a possibility, it's your reality.